folks, JD here, and today we've got this. This is the SJRC SW70, and this is one of their professional GPS quadcopters. Okay, I'm going to open up this, and then we're going to have a little look and see what is on the inside of this box. And here she is. Look at the size of this thing. Now, we're used to the S20, the S30 that we've been looking at over the past couple of months, and those things are quite small. They're quite compact, they feel quite nice, but they're definitely on the toy grade side of the spectrum. This thing, I think this blurs the line quite successfully. Look at the size of it next to my hand. The thing is massive, absolutely huge, and it reminds me of the Phantom 4. Look at it, it's just really beautiful. Okay, so let's start off with the front end of this quadcopter. Very nice, very smooth plastic, a little bit glossy. I prefer matte, but still it's okay. Looks quite clean. Nice little movement, nice little marks in this plastic. Great big SJRC quadcopter badge to the top. To the front we have another SJRC emblem here. That's standard, it had that on the S20 and the S30. I think it's a very nice little feel to it. Then we have our motor arms. Now these feel nice. You've got a nice little bit of aeration that's going to blow in through here and through the back here, this side, and on the underneath. You have an LED on the arm here as well, which I think is going to be quite nice, as well as the LED on the underside of the propeller arms, all four propeller arms. You have these huge, really rigid, oh actually not that rigid, quite nice, quite thick plastic propeller arms. You have the propeller arm little nubbins, I'm going to call them, on the top. They look as if they're not on, but I have tried to go over them, and they certainly are on, but it looks a little bit strange. I don't know if I quite like that. I prefer it to be flush. You can also see the LEDs from the top of it here. Should you need to change the propellers, you've got B running one side, A running the other side. It shows you exactly where on the arms. That's nice. At the bottom of the quadcopter, we have this movable camera. It's got a 90-degree angle of view. This is a 1080p camera, and it should get quite nice shots. Again, motorized gimbal controlled by the transmitter. It has a control distance of 400 meters, but an FPV distance of only 100 to 150 meters. So that extra control distance of 400 meters is pretty much, well, you're not going to get it if you haven't got FPV. It's not going to be very, very successful at all, I don't think. I certainly can't see 400 meters, or can't see it that successfully. So I think you are going to have to try and see if you can use some sort of repeater to get up to that 400 meters of FPV distance. But we're going to look at that when we fly this. Then we have these very nice, very rigid landing sprigs with four little rubber bungs on the underneath of it, just to when you come down on gravel or on tarmac. All these do is just stop it from skidding and sliding across. Just adds a bit of friction onto the bottom there. Now if we turn this round to the side, look at that. It's a beautiful profile. Once again, to the back end here, this is where we're going to come across this. Now, turn it on. Single click once to turn on. Blue LEDs to the back, white LEDs to the front. Looks really nice. Turn it off, exactly as I did. Click and hold. You'll see the battery lights disappear. Very DJI-esque. You have your standard micro USB connector here for charging, and you have your four LED status LEDs there as well. Now, if you click and hold, and if you pull this out, you come across this thing. This is colossal. It's a 7.4 volt 2500 milliamp hour battery. That being said, this thing sucks so much power, you're going to get between 12 and 15 minutes of battery life out of this. Now, I'm hoping that I'm going to eke as much life out of this as possible, and when it comes to the flight tests, because it's only got one battery, I'm going to be splitting the videos into two. So you're going to have your first video, and then you're going to have a second video, but obviously it's going to be run from the one battery. Now, this battery feels sturdy, it feels nice, it isn't raised at all in any way, shape or form. It's all nice and flush, nice and flat. It does take a whopping, I think I read, it does take a whopping 5 hours to charge, as it says on the box. 5 hours to charge, that does. But then once you do click it in, it's very nice, very firm, it goes in and it feels very rigid. That isn't coming out easily at all. Now, As we make our way to the back end of the quad here, as you can see, we have just the back end of the camera here and the back end of the gimbal. We have a Wi-Fi antenna, and right at the top here you have, oh, I don't like doing that when the motors are off, you have an SD card writer. I just wanted to show you where that was. That SD card writer obviously requires an SD card. It doesn't look as if we have one with the package. If we do have one, I'll let you know. So make sure you put a nice class 10 SD card inside there, just so you can get those beautiful recordings from this camera. I'm hoping this camera is going to be a good one, I really am. Right, that is the quadcopter. What's its flying weight? Well, I can tell you now, I think it's going to be over 250 grams. The battery's in the back. This thing is well over 684 grams. 684 grams. This thing is heavier than the Spark. And that thing feels like a little brick. Right, that is going to be, I'm going to call it here, I'm going to say this is going to be a nice flyer. I think it's going to be nice. It's got a nice bit of weight behind it. We've got some these motors in here, which I got to say, these are brushed. They're not brushless, they're brushed motors. So we'll have to see exactly how that looks. So honestly, I don't really mind that, as long as they're powerful enough and as long as it feels as if it's powerful enough. What I don't like is when a quadcopter takes off and you're throttling up and it slowly elevates. Let's hope these are nice and beefy. They certainly look as if they're going to be. Right, that's the quadcopter done for now. I'm going to just put this to one side on this ridiculously small table. As well, in the accessory bag you get another spare landing sprigs there should you need them. You have 4 spare propellers. Yeah, 4 spare propellers in there should you need them as well. You get yourself a micro USB cable for charging your battery. You also get your nicely presented manual in here, which does actually take you into a lot of detail. It really does, and it provides you the QR codes for the SJRC app as well. All that being said, that's really not too bad, and I do like the way SJRC have these manuals. It may look silly to some, but I like presentation, and that looks quite nice. And then of course we have our transmitter. Now let's move this quadcopter here, because this transmitter is going to take a little bit of time for us to go over. So, straight off the bat, I loved the older SJRC transmitters that you had with the S20 and the S30. I loved that display at the top that showed you exactly what button you were pushing, but it just gave you exactly what the button corresponded to in plain English, like speed mode 1, speed mode 2, speed mode 3, return to home. I loved that. You do get that with this, and it's down here. So when you turn on the transmitter, see your little bars at the bottom there? So once you one up and one down to bind, everything is nice and solid. So for the second, we have transmitter on, we have speed mode, we have camera, it looks like, and return to home. So if you push return to home, then return to home flashes. Likewise, when you take off, nothing flashes. We do have 4 extra buttons underneath here. These are for the quadcopter, so obviously they're not going to be on right now because the quadcopter is off. Couple of buttons on the bottom here. Obviously you have your return to home, you have your on and off button, and you have your automatic takeoff, automatic landing buttons there. Now you have, obviously, because it is GPS quadcopter, it does come built in with a barometer, so therefore you do have altitude hold. Your left analog stick flicking itself back into the neutral position there. We have a lanyard holder there should you want to use it. Now, this is where it gets quite interesting. Over this side, you have a speed roller. This is not the first quadcopter I've come across with a speed roller, and I really prefer this to a button that you click. This speed roller is fantastic. I'm hoping it's going to be good in this. You also have follow me, and you also have headless mode as well here. Quite nice these little buttons are. I find the transmitter, just having it in my hand like this, see, I can touch all the buttons at the side, the rollers, same on the other side as well, and I can get to, it's a bit more difficult to get to these, but I can certainly activate the shoulder buttons without any issue. Then we have our gimbal mover, and then we have take video and take photo there as well. Where is the FPV boom, I hear you ask? Well, it's there. So inside there, that is where you will fit your really small tablet or large phone, and then it clips in quite nicely, and you can angle it, and once you finish with it, it just all clips back in very nicely. 2 antennas on the top here. These are real antennas, they're not fake. On the back you have a little carrier, should you want to carry it, as well as a micro USB charging port on the bottom there just to charge up your transmitter, as well as you have two very nice pads which sit quite nicely in the palm of your hand there. See? Feels quite nice, sits quite nice. I think, as you can see, the transmitter sort of flares towards the top. It's sort of narrow at the bottom and flares out towards the top. I don't really think that would be necessary. I think it would be quite nice to have a transmitter the same size right the way around. It does feel as if it's a little bit alien at the top. That being said though, it does feel sturdy. It doesn't sound sturdy, but it is feeling really solid. No matter where I press on this, the plastic isn't bowing at all. It is properly constructed, very, very sturdy. I like that. As for the quadcopter itself is very sturdy as well. I mean, you can't even push the top in, and you can see my knuckles are getting white there, and I can't push the top in. Again, very sturdy quadcopter. Right, let's break from this for a second and let's have a little look at that SJRC app. Okay, so right away when you open up the SJRC app, you're going to want to scroll across until you find your particular quadcopter. So it's not the S20 or the S30, it's the S70. This is the 1080p model, so I'm going to click that, and then you should have a picture representation of your particular quad. Now what we're going to do is you've got a couple of buttons here, look at your photos and videos, get support, learn to fly, quick start. We're going to look at controls. Because once you look at controls, and once you allow the app to actually respond properly and use your photo and videos, there we go, this is what you get. So I'm just going to alter my position of the camera for a second, just so I can zoom in a bit, just so that I can give you a bit of a better angle. Right, okay, so this is what we get. At the top here on the left hand side you have your back button. Then you have your analog sticks where you add your extra controls. So follow me, return to home, automatic takeoff, automatic landing, microphone, take photo and take video. Then you've got your VR mode here, which you click your VR, and obviously then if you put it into a VR headset then you can use VR. Then you have your play, which gives you your photos and your videos. Then you have your flight log, which gives you every single flight that you've done with this particular quadcopter. Then you have your Google Maps and your gesture flying, point-to-point flying, should you want to use it. You have your GPS meter here for how many GPS, how much signal you have, as well as your transmitter signal and your your transmitter battery life and your quadcopter battery life. You have your hamburger menu in the corner. Once you click that, that gives you your flight parameters. So this is where you have beginner mode on or off, you have your flight distance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off beginner mode now. I don't want beginner mode on straight away. So then I'm going to alter the flight distance up to 300, is that 300 meters? Yeah, it's in meters. So I'm going to have that at 308 meters. I'm going to have the flight altitude again at about 80 meters. And I'm going to have the return altitude at, just to ensure I can clear all trees, at, do you know what that'll do? 74 meters there. And then I'm going to click save. Now that should be able to save unless it has to write back to the quadcopter ROM, which it does look like it needs to write. It does need to do that. So I'm going to have to do this in the field instead because it doesn't look as if this is going to work. Okay, there we are. So I'll have to do that in the field again. So if I go back, there we are, reset the flight parameters. Yes, why not? It's obviously not going to save, and I think I've just got myself into a little loop here. I hope not. But if I go back, there we go, fine. So then, once you've been into the hamburger menu, you can then just use the back button as you saw me do, and it takes you back out onto this screen. What I like about the SJRC app is down the bottom here. You have your distance, you have your height, and you have your speed. I like seeing that. I like seeing this telemetry stuff. I really do. So I think this is going to work really well. The app we've seen with two different quadcopters, and it has worked well. There we are, folks. This is just a brief view of the SJRC app. Okay, so what do we get all together? Well, we get this monstrous quadcopter. We get this nice transmitter. We also get a spare set of 4 propellers. We get a manual. We get our landing sprigs, as well as we get our little USB cable there just to charge our battery. So there we are, folks. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD, you've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you're enjoying the channel. So until next time, my friends, happy flying.